All right. Happy Thursday. It's a day earlier than usual, but it's another episode of Learning Tech Talks where we are continuing to explore the landscape of learning technology while cutting through the fluff and getting the questions answered you need answered. And today we are talking about, I don't know, we've got a wild mix of stuff. We've got micro learning, we've got frontline workers, we've got what's going on the Great Resignation space, and I'm joined by Tal and Eran. Correct? Did I get it right? All right, and they're from Bytes. And they're from Bytes, and we're going to get going on this. And I'm actually, while you're doing your introductions, I'm going to post on LinkedIn because the LinkedIn link broke, but everything else was live, so I'm going to do that while you're doing it. So while we're doing this, we're going to do the usual icebreaker games that we always do, which is, let's start with where are you in the world today? Mine's not nearly as exciting as anybody else's because I'm in Wisconsin in the U.S. with my houseplant Fred. That's about it. But how about the two of you? Where are you right now?
We're in Tel Aviv, Israel, known as the Startup Nation. You probably know that.
The Startup Nation.
Yeah, we are the Startup Nation.
All right. And it's like, and we talked about this before we went live. It's like, technically, if you're in the States, this would be like having a conversation with me on a Friday evening, which that's saying a lot to spend your Friday evening hanging out with me. I got to give you credit right there. So, all right. And what's the weather like there? Because here it's starting to get cold. So I am curious about that piece.
We're in the middle of a heat wave, like always in Israel. Our offices are right by the beach, by the way. It's evening right now, but the beach was full today. It's about 28 degrees Celsius. like it in the middle of summer.
So middle of summer. Okay. While I ask the next question, I'm going to have to look up.
It's not supposed to be like this, but well.
The weather is crazy.
Oh, it's not. It's not supposed to be that hot right now.
It's November.
It's
supposed to be winter, but.
All right. And you said it was what? You said 20. What's the temp? 32 Celsius?
28 Celsius.
28. All right. I gotta look at. Okay, that's not too bad though. So for stateside folks, 82. I mean, that's warm. I suppose November. So is this technically your winter season though?
It's a bit supposed to. It's a bit different.
Okay. A little bit different. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's not. Now, if you told me it was, 40 degrees Celsius or something like that, then I'd be like, okay, heat wave. That's what we were dealing with West Coast, not that.
No, it's a heat wave for November. It's not a heat wave for August.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Okay. So let's go to question number 2. And you've had some time to think about this. So I'm curious where you landed, and I'll share mine. I'll go second this time. But in terms of preferred method of communication, what is your preferred method of communication? And I'm curious if this ends up tying to the topic at hand. I didn't intentionally do that, but we'll see what happens with it here. We'll see what happens.
But it has a strong connection.
I figured it might.
You're a sharp guy. So my preferred communication channel is instant messaging. I'm addicted to instant messaging. It actually changed my life. It's simple. It's fast. And as I said, you didn't mean it, but it has a very strong connection to our solution.
Okay. All right. So are there particular instant messaging, because that's big, instant messaging. I mean, that could be,
in Israel, we
all
use
sorts
WhatsApp.
of things.
In Israel, we use WhatsApp.
Okay.
But there are lots of instant messaging channels around the world. Like WeChat, for example.
So big Asia Pacific. I remember when I was at GE doing a lot of stuff globally, and WeChat, there were certain regions, if you didn't have it in WeChat, you might as well just not do it at all.
Exactly.
That's right.
Specifically in China, but in Israel and pretty much everywhere in Europe, WhatsApp is the number one messaging app.
Okay. All right.
We don't know what text messaging is.
But that was only one of you answering. I didn't get an answer on both sides. So is it both just WhatsApp?
We're waiting for
for me, WhatsApp as well. Don't call me, please. I don't know, people who are starting to call me, it's like being rude. Why are you calling me without asking before? But if it's something long, then definitely video, short videos. But if it's something short, definitely WhatsApp, instant messaging.
Okay. All right. So do you ever just, so I'm going to say mine, because again, and this is actually going to tie very closely to the conversation at hand, which, like I said, that wasn't the plan, but hey, it works out. because I would say similar to me. If you call my phone, I'm not going to answer it. I'm not going to, I could see who it is and go, I know this person. And I would go,
Don't answer.
Yeah. If it's important, you'll text me or you'll send me a message or something like that. So I do think, but this is a generational thing that now I hate stereotypes. I hate, generational stereotypes, but I will say it does seem more common now that folks, for me, email, instant messaging, if you need something instant. I'm super introverted, believe it or not. And so for me, the picking up the phone and talking to someone live unexpectedly, not a fan. Or somewhere in person, somebody just walking up and being like, hi, do you want to talk? I'm like, whoa. I did not plan for this. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's amazing how fast it changed. It was completely different 10 years ago, but now it's like when someone calls, you're being rude. You didn't ask before if you can call.
It is really an interesting trend in that sense. Now, there are some people I know that they will only call, my dad being one of them. Like I'm like, Dad, I'm never going to answer the phone. Even if I'm not doing anything and the phone rings and I see it's, I'm still not going to pick it up. But for him, he's still there. So This is actually going to be a really interesting conversation to connect this to what we're talking about.
I hope you didn't send him the link for this interview.
Well, he knows it's going on and he would be like, yeah, he's 100% right because he's told me this a million times. But so let's talk about this because we're going to get into this topic of how do people actually communicate and connect with one another, and how is that changing the way communications and learning and development is actually changing, because this does have big implications on that. But before we get into it, it does make sense to talk about, okay, what's the two of your background and how did you know at one point, we're going to create a frontline video communication micro-learning platform, or where did that come from?
Want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, just to say that Bytes is a platform for training and ongoing professional communication inside organizations.
Okay.
This is what we do.
That is the what.
Yeah. This is the what. I'll tell you a bit about our background, and then we will be happy to start and show you the product and how it works. So actually, we are three co-founders. It's Eran, Chagai, and myself, and we have lots of experience in three different pillars and topics. First of all, it's training and educating people. Then in tech, and we also managed lots of people during our professional years. And if I'll tell a bit about me and Chagai, so I headed one of the SAT departments in one of the biggest prep schools in Israel. We call it in Israel a psychometric test. In United States, you call the specific test SAT. You know the test?
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember preparing for it back in the day when it was like the big deal. You had to take
one
your
of
SAT.
your best experiences.
Oh yeah, it was a great experience. I always think back fondly on that and go, I wish I could do that again.
Yeah. So you can. But I headed this division. Chagai was a team leader there, and we developed lots of professional content for our students, but not only for our students, for our employees as well. Okay. They were Gen Z students and employees. Obviously, they are the current workforce, today's workforce, and this is our background. We developed mainly digital content, and we tried to figure out how to create content in a fast way, simple way, and that it will be very engaging for them. This was our goal. Eran, I will tell about Eran because he's very modest most of the time. So I will tell about him that he is a great entrepreneur. He built lots of businesses from bars and restaurants to real estate company. And he was responsible for training and engaging his employees to professional content. So we all come from this area of training, of teaching, of managing businesses and employees. And I think that at some point, each of us we actually recognize that there is a huge pain and a huge gap in terms of content creation and being able to reach out to those frontline employees, to these teams.
I would say especially in frontlines. I would say there is
exactly.
a huge gap there.
That's right. But the gap and the pain is for the people that actually need to create the content. And then there is a huge pain in being able to create this engagement with the frontline employees. We recognize the pain, and we decided to investigate this pain.
All right.
And what we understood is that there are lots of solutions. We knew them, we actually use them. But when we do our research, we understood that there are more of them. Lots of solutions for content creation, for employee engagement. Everyone talks about Gen Z, about simple content creation, about being able to consume the content anywhere, anytime, etc. So
it's all the jargon. There's tons of it out there.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know to talk the talk. But what we thought that most of us, I'll say us, but most of us actually don't walk the walk. And we decided to take it step ahead. And we think that we actually figure out how to do it. And we decided to create bites.
So do either of you have a background in tech? Were either of you like software? And I know you said there's a third co-founder. So were any of you developers and you went, you know what, I think we can build something better that takes the good of what we've seen, but actually improves on it by fixing some of the opportunities?
So you can.
Hagai is our tech guy.
He's a tech guy. Right.
Yeah, but none of us came from tech to this, all right?
Okay.
Although Hagai is a tech guy, he also was SAT instructor. And as Tal said, I was very close to the frontline employees. At some point, I owned 8 bars and restaurants here in Tel Aviv. So we were all very tied against.
And you said real estate too, right? Real estate and restaurants.
Yeah, we were talking about the kids in our prep call. Once the first kid was born, my wife told me enough with the bars and restaurants. So I went to
the schedule. The restaurant lifestyle is not necessarily super conducive to kids, so that was probably a wise move.
Yeah, definitely.
She is wise. I can tell you.
She is.
Yeah.
She is.
Okay.
I hope she's not listening here.
I hope she does.
But anyways, the training of frontline employees always stays close to my heart. It's a challenge that everyone faces in this in the food and beverage industry, in retail industry, consumer goods, and so on. And I guess we'll talk about it in a second. Yeah.
So the three of you got together and said, "I think we can build something different."
And then we started bootstrapped with a prototype, and we reached dozens of clients and users. And then we decided that it's time to scale. And recently we raised our seed funds, and now we're scaling. We have 1,400 customers all around the world. We have more than 200,000 users all around the world.
And how long ago did you start this?
Almost 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because
all right.
That was being modest a little bit, but we've developed an MVP that accidentally succeeded. It was just supposed to be a proof of concept, but it turned out to be better than we thought, even though it was patch by patch in the beginning. Just a few web pages tied to each other. But the essence of it was the right thing. And with this, we started working both with small, medium businesses and enterprises. It really scaled from then. From there.
So let's talk, because we're 15 minutes in, and there might be people who watch or listen to this, and then they go, I told you this time's going to go fast. I'm telling you. So I got to say this though, because there's going to be folks that go, okay, training communication platform. Again, I talk about this all the time, and I spend, I don't know how much time in the vendor space. There's a lot of noise around, okay, training communication. I kind of get it. but what specifically? So let's talk a little bit about, and we'll show it as well, but I'd also just like to talk about when we talk about reaching front lines with training and communication, what were some of those gaps that you said, hey, I mean, there's some stuff that's out there, but it's not necessarily working as what we think is the best way possible. What were some of those things that jumped out?
Right. So essentially our solution is very simple in the front, a lot of technology behind it, obviously. But a lot of the solutions, they see L&D, the learning development area, it's different from communication. And we see it as a whole. So we've developed a solution that is very simple. Again, it's based on three main pillars. The first one would be a content creation app that only the content creators in the organization need to install this app, where they can create a professional content or semi-professional content as easily, as intuitively as they would create a story, exactly like you would create a story for your TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. This is the way you create professional content, obviously with the necessary adjustment to become professional, but the essence is exactly the same. Once this content is being created, it's being wrapped in a capsule, which we call the byte. Each byte has the same structure.
The snack.
I said I call these things snackables.
Which I like it very much.
Is a snack. Okay.
We will steal it from you.
You know what? I accept. That's fine.
It's documented live now.
I know. I said it live, so I can't come back on it now.
Yeah. So once this byte is being created very easily again and very fast most of the time in our content creation app, it's then being delivered to the frontline employees via instant messaging. And we're completely agnostic to which channel you share it with. It can be text message, WhatsApp, Line, WeChat, Viber, Microsoft Teams, Slack, pretty much you name it. We integrate with it, and you can send it via your existing instant messaging channels. In that way, that even organizations that are globally spread, in one click of a button, they send it to 6 or 7 different platforms. Whether it's in China, it's WeChat, in Japan, it's Line, in Europe, WhatsApp, United States, text message.
So instead of trying to get people to be like, okay, what's the one place they are, and let's try and get everybody on it, it's you actually can hit multiple and go, well, it doesn't really matter, which matters on a global level, because I've been in organizations where you're trying to get everyone on the same app.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle. It doesn't work. Like you can set out to do it, but it doesn't work.
It's first of all, in global organization, that's a huge pain. But not only on global organization, even local organization.
It does.
There's a complete different conception behind it that we believe in. It's not trying to bring employees, frontline workers to your ecosystem. It's reaching them in the place they're most attentive to, in the place they consume most of their data. Your icebreaker question was, what preferred communication channels? So I know that I live in my WhatsApp, right? Every message I get to my WhatsApp, I will see it. If it's in some app in my second or third page, there's
probably
very low chances. I'll check it every no way. And it won't be updated. And even if I see it, it will be every 2 or 3 weeks. So that's the second pillar, reach the employees in the place they're most attentive to and the place they already are. The third one would be monitoring and tracking, because even though it's a story-based and it's story-like content, and even though it's shared through instant messaging, in the end of the day, it's professional content. And you need to make sure that everybody saw this content, they understood it, if they had anything to comment on it or ask question. So we also allow, and we'll see it in a second, a two-way street where people can comment, ask questions, and be engaged with your C-suite or with your L&D instructors and with everyone. So that's the basic, and that's the essence of Bytes.
So let me reframe it again, just to kind of play it back to make sure because I've seen it, I've seen it in action briefly before we went live here, but so there's really 3 components of it, because I think this is important. So the creation, and just to clarify, so for the creator piece, and one of the things you hit on, man, we could easily talk about this for several hours, but we're not going to. So I'm going to try and move it quickly. But the only time someone has to necessarily download an app is if they're a creator. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay,
Exactly.
so but now anybody technically can be a creator. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's part of the goal is to try and get more people to be creators,
It's for the
creating
company to
content.
decide. It's for the company to decide. We believe
Okay.
that the company should encourage more and more people to be content creators. It will be to create, some kind of community of creators inside the company.
Okay.
This
So
is
let's
our
talk
thing.
about, I'm telling you, we're going to go in a lot of different directions here because this is an important discussion because there's been a recent trend and people are talking about user generated content becoming the thing. And I would say even in the space, a lot of people are still kind of like, well, what does that mean? And how are we thinking about that? Because to your point, you could mean, well, let's just let everybody create content, which, type of a
Not
thing.
everybody will create the content.
Not everybody wants to, and nor should they. But on the other side, I've seen the tendency to go the other way where companies lock this thing down and say, we're only going to have 5 people in the entire company create content, and you miss out. So I'm curious, when you work with organizations, how have you helped them navigate that? Because that's a really important piece. Because if you don't have enough content creators, you don't have enough content to really keep it feeling fresh and live and actually addressing the problems. You have too many, it can get messy. It can overwhelm an organization trying to roll it out. So how do you help people find that balance?
You want to go or should I?
So I can start and you can complete me like always. So look, it's an evolution inside organization. Okay, they start with a few content creators, but then the bite, and we will show you, I don't know, 1 or 2 bites. The bites is very viral. People love the bites, and when they see their colleagues actually producing a bite, and when they see that they created a bite and this bite is spread all over the company and everyone consume the bite, etc. So they want to become creators. So they come to their manager and they want, maybe I can create about this or about that. So it is a very natural process. And if to emphasize something about this generation or today's workforce, so they are all instant and story-like oriented. Most of them create content, and we spoke, and earlier we spoke that just the 3 of us, what is to create content? The question was if to create story on Instagram, it's to create content. So my answer is yes. It's definitely to create content. So almost most of the people today create content on social media
in some degree of creation.
Even if they don't create content, they all consume content, and it is not just that they consume content, they addicted to this content. This is the situation.
True.
When you wake up in the morning, I don't know, maybe I don't know if I should say.
No, he has too many kids.
I have too many kids.
But when you wake up,
there's nothing like too many,
That's true.
When I wake up in the morning, so the first thing I do is open my Instagram account. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one. So we try to create this kind of natural process inside the organization.
If I may, I just want to emphasize a couple more things. First of all, there's a difference between creating and sharing. We don't want the users to spam each other, right? So it doesn't mean that everyone who creates the content can share it. All right, he or she needs to have the necessary level of permission.
Well, that's what I was going to ask in terms of the governance behind this, because this is where sometimes people freak out about user-generated content, is this fear of, oh my goodness, we're going to create a bunch of stuff and it's just going to get pushed out to the organization. And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. And you have to help organizations.
So don't worry about this. No worries about this. We won't let everyone on his first try or her first try to create something and spam the entire company. That's not the way it works. But definitely, you as a bartender or a waitress or a retail associate, you can definitely create the content, offer it to your management or your supervisors, and they can decide whether to share it or not. And
Okay, so you produce the content, bite, the snackable, whatever. You're producing it, and then as part of the workflow, it's going to someone, somewhere that then's being kind of
exactly, yeah,
thumbed
that's
up or thumbed
that,
down. Somebody's playing gladiator, kind of doing this whole action and deciding what happens.
yeah, exactly like this.
Okay.
It's up for the organization to decide who they want to authorize to share and who is not authorized to share. But that's spamming is something that obviously it's not. It doesn't happen a lot, and actually the best bites and the best content that we ever see is being generated by the floor workers, the frontline workers and the frontline workforce. But it has to be monitored, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and I think on that piece, especially, so these are these areas where I go, well, this is true for frontline workers, but it's actually also true for even office workers, because the reality is I think this is one of the gaps, and this is why I do get excited about user-generated content, is a lot of times L&D or whoever, comms, they're tasked with creating this stuff, and they're 7 steps disconnected from what's actually happening. So either one of two things tends to happen. You either have way too much bureaucracy in the process, and by the time you actually create something, so much time has passed, its relevancy is gone. It's like, oh, this just happened, we should really let people know. And in 9 weeks, we'll have actually gotten to it and pushed it out to the organization. Well, now you've missed that window of opportunity. On the other hand, it also can lead to, well, to try and speed things up, let's operate off our own assumptions, which that's another dangerous territory to go, oh yeah, I bet this is what it's like on the floor. And then they get it and go, I mean, this isn't anything like what we actually deal with. And that's where I think user-generated content can play a really critical role in saying, well, let the people who know what's going on tell us how to do it, help us, and not be afraid of that.
Definitely. And this is, most organizations, as Tal said, they start small. They start with a small amount of creators, but very fast they spot the good creators, or they pop up by themselves who wants to create more bytes. It can be someone who's very passionate about creating content, or it can be someone that is working for a long time and knows all the best practices. And it can be pretty much on anything, from how to fold a t-shirt, or all the way how to deal with unsatisfied customer, or how to take a COVID test.
Okay.
And
and it's fun. Oh, go for it.
No,
I'm
you
telling
go
you,
for
we're gonna
it.
go
That's
all
okay.
over.
No.
Well, no,
We're
what I
not
was going
very
to say.
polite, we're Israelis, so we tend to speak too much and to.
No, well, I told you that's the style of the
Yeah.
show. We're just going to kiss,
I'm
just
trying
sit
to
and
hold
cut each
my
other off,
hands down,
and
not
we
to-
even coordinated our outfits. So this is actually
Yeah, I
this is
told you
actually
that you
perfect.
look like brothers, but so I'll just say something about the need that information will actually to reach to actually deliver information very fast to the floor.
Yeah.
And when COVID went into the world, it was March 2020. So we have a very meaningful use case, use case for us, because everyone was terrified, people, governments, and there was a sense of urgency to deliver information and to organize systems, try to stop and handle the pandemic. And a government agency approached to us, and 48 hours later, they had a few playlists of information. They share the information with their teams, with their staff, with people all around the country, and I think it was a very good example for, first of all, that it is so important to be able to create content fast and to deliver it fast. Sometimes, it's a matter of life and death, but sometimes it's just a new product that you want to sell more. And I think that the Bytes, one of our main values is that we are a plug and play solution. So you can decide to start working with us, create content, and a few hours later, all your
actually push it out, move it that quick.
Exactly.
Okay. You just need to create stories. Like 10 minutes from now, you can send a byte about pretty much everything to all of your employees worldwide. And Tal has mentioned that we have very, very, very high engagement levels. So in a couple of hours, over more than 90% of your workforce will probably see this bike, will consume it, will understand it. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting you bring up the speed of information being so critical for organizations. And I think what happened in the last 18 months really highlighted how ineffectively we've been doing this over the years. I think we took for granted a lot of things where we went, oh yeah, no, like we have email distribution lists.
Yeah.
When something happens, we push out an email and everybody gets it, and that counts. And all of a sudden we hit the COVID era where it was, I mean, I've worked with a lot of companies that they had, and this is where I think the front line really does make a difference big time, because there the speed of information can be, in some situations, life or death, and COVID really highlighted that hey, this new protocol, we need to implement this now, not 2 weeks from now, not when you get around to checking your email or when you finally log into the intranet to see the update. Like right this second, we need this to hit you so that you know what to do. And I think many organizations took for granted that they didn't really have a lot of good ways to be able to reach the workforce that quickly. So I can imagine that was, you saw some explosion in growth as organizations realized, oh no.
Yeah, definitely. Not just, emails is one example, but also organizations were able to get 30 new employees in a classroom and train them together in a day or two. I won't talk about how effective it is and how much of this they remember after a couple of weeks, but even this wasn't possible anymore. You couldn't get 30 people in the same classroom, and you still can't in most places, and nor you shouldn't.
And when you
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. And if you want to do it on a video conference or Zoom,
they probably will fall asleep while you're.
Well, yeah. So there's a whole nother episode that we could talk about with this. So I am curious with this, and then I actually, the next step would be, I'd love to kind of talk, because we've focused on the creation piece. I've got one more question and kind of area I want to dig into, and then we can talk about the actual engagement, which then I think it might make sense to show how people actually do this. But you talked about the app then allowing creators and making it easy for them. And I think this is a really, really important point, because a lot of people will say, oh, it's just too hard to get people to generate content. And I would say TikTok, Instagram, I mean, some of these social medias prove that it's like, that's actually not true. The challenge was removing the barriers that people had to figuring out how to do it. I mean, I just remember days of yore where it was, well, we should do a user-generated content, and everybody has a phone, so they can just make content. And you're like, okay, but operationally, we're going to ask them to record a video, and then they got to load it on a SharePoint drive, and then they've got to move it and the complexity of it led to people just going, you know what, forget it, I'm not doing this type of thing. So I am curious how you're helping solve for that, because again, if you make content generation easy, not that everyone will just start generating content, you got to be careful there, but it does remove the barrier to entry. So I'm curious, what were some of the things that you've done to address that, to make it easier for users to say, hey, I can generate content, this isn't that hard?
Cool. So you're absolutely right about the evolution of technology, and that there were barriers in the past, and fortunately, the technology is much more advanced right now. So first of all, we've developed a flow that everyone goes through, and we found it the same flow for everyone who creates the content to be the most effective and most engaging in the point of view of the employee. But not only that really eases the pain of creating content, because you don't need to start from a blank page. You don't need to start from scratch and have a writer's block. We take you through a journey of what to talk about. We can give you inspirational bites or templates, or even just the flow of the bite itself that puts you in a structure where it helps you really create a content fast. The second thing is the technology. We have a very advanced video editor which allows you to create a content easily. You can take pretty much like TikTok, but again with the focus of more professional world. But you can take different video parts, different media parts, and combine them together. You can add soundtracks, auto captioning, and even, I don't know, highlight certain things. So the entire creation process is very easy, very intuitive. And you're absolutely right about the fact that not everyone is fit to be a content creator, but every organization has quite a few. So part of the implementation is spotting these people, letting them the ability, giving them the ability to use our app, and you'll find them alone. So that's how we've built our app with the mind of helping you create the content in a certain structure that both will keep your employees engaged and the content effective.
Okay. Well, and I think, talking about that piece, the video creation piece, and maybe we'll talk backstage afterwards, because I'd love to just mess around with it and give it a test drive, because that is a big piece. And to me, I would say TikTok and Instagram are the two that jump to mind that really helped people see, hey, this can be really easy and fun. And content creation, I think maybe we've seen an evolution over the past few years where people had this perception of what content was, and it had this very stuffy, boring, we're going to have, I just even remember when I first started learning Tech Talks, people thought it was going to be this boring product demo with every new vendor going, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not what content has to be. So I can see helping people make that something that they can do easily would make a big difference in that sense. And is it primarily video?
Yeah, so it's video, but just to emphasize another angle, there is a point where companies approach to external suppliers that will create content for them. Okay. Most of the times, it's when they want to make a real digital content, which will be interactive, to create any kind of collaboration between people, and being able to monitor, track, manage the content. Because everyone in the organization can create a short video or create a PowerPoint presentation, but this is not the way to conduct, a team or professional content. So what we did is we gave them the option to create this short TikTok. We call it the professional story. The bite is actually the professional story, and it is professional because we actually enable them in minutes to add interactive elements, collaboration, and of course the option to monitor it. And it's if you know what you want to say, you just shoot a video, and in 2 more minutes you add this interactive, and if you want to add a chat, we will show you the bite. Yeah, and it's like a magic, process.
Like magic. I like.
Yeah, it. I love our solution. You can recognize.
You're very passionate.
Yeah, I'm very.
But if it's okay, you were spot on. Some organizations create bites. They put professional videos that they did a few years ago, very professional, very edited. And we found out that the best performing bites are not the highly professional videos, they're highly edited. The rough videos, the more TikTok-like, the more YouTube-like, the more real the videos are, the more real the bites are. This is how employees engage. Because I know personally, when I open a video, even on YouTube or on Bytes or TikTok, and I see something highly edited, something very professional, all right, it's a promotion.
Bye-bye.
It's a commercial.
Yeah. When you can tell somebody's reading a teleprompter somewhere,
exactly.
You're just lame.
But if I can see the head chef talking to the camera and saying, "Hi guys, this is our new special dish for today," then you got me. I'm hooked.
You're locked in.
I want to hear about it. Yeah.
The thing about that is, and I almost feel like this accelerated. My observation has been that's probably always been the case. That's just been my observation, is people tend to engage with authenticity far more than other things. But I think that's only accelerated over the past couple years because people have felt more disconnected from others. They felt more disconnected, they felt more distant. And so being able to actually feel connected to what that content is, as though that individual on the other side is talking to you, just having a conversation with you and telling you, like you said, I'm the head chef, let me show you how to actually make this, versus, all right, I'm going to pull up the recipe. And you're like,
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm part of this.
I think you're right. And there's additional thing that people used to worry a lot about how they're being, what's the perception about them, right? How it's being presented.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not highly professional. It's not professional enough. And today it's okay because of TikTok, because of Instagram, because of YouTube Shorts. People understand that the authenticity is more important than how I look right now. How do I look on the camera right now? I don't know. Perhaps I didn't cut my hair today, but it's okay because this is who I am.
I don't have hair to cut.
No, I would say that has been so two things, and then I actually want to dig into it a little bit more. That I think is an important piece in this, and this would just be to anybody who's thinking about user-generated content, or if you're somebody who's thinking about creating content, is there were and historically have been a lot of barriers to it where people have felt they had to be something they're not, or I've got to go, make sure that my background is arranged perfectly, and it's like, no, because that's not why people are engaging in the content. They're engaging to hear what you have to say or what contribution you're making, type of a thing, versus, well, is that a whatever kind of plant in Christopher's back? Like, nobody cares. I've moved this plant intentionally. I have 3 plants in my office. I've moved it to see if anybody ever notices. Nobody ever notices. Nobody ever notices. They don't care that there's a plant behind me. But the other piece with the tech that you talked about that is important is there's a lot of folks who may still think a lot of these barriers exist to creating content. And to me, that's one of the exciting parts about technology, like Bytes and just TikTok, Instagram type things, is producing content is easier. And I think a lot of people are still holding onto this mindset that, oh, this is tough, or there's a lot that has to be done. We don't have the technology to do this. And it's like, well, actually we do. It's pretty readily available now.
Just pick up your camera, pick up your phone, film yourself, say what you want to say, really want to say. Don't use any special props. Don't use any special, editing capabilities. Just simply tell your employees what you want to say to them, and they'll understand better. I can guarantee better than 99% of other things. But
and to your point with that,
it doesn't stand. The video is by itself doesn't stand alone, right? It has to be in an ecosystem that does the entire learning cycle in the right way. It needs to be, as you will see, followed by a question to make sure the employee understood.
So let's go to that. Let's talk about the experience, because see, look at that. Look what we did right there. We just transition naturally into that, because I think this does. The thing about it is, not only with this, and as you're pulling it up, it's about being able to do that, but by moving quick, creating fast, raw content like that, you can hit, sometimes you think about it, people spend weeks preparing one email, hoping it goes out and is perfect. You could have produced 10 little microbytes of information that would have had a way better chance of making a difference than this one beautifully crafted, you hired a copywriter to write it and make sure the graphic is exactly right type of a thing.
Yeah, and not to talk about today's workforce, especially the young generation, they never check their emails, right? No. Some of them don't even have an email, but the ones who does, they never check it.
So let's pull it up, because now we're talking about, go for it.
Yeah. I think just to say that I think that you can't fake it. And what I mean by that is, if you don't create a platform that this is its DNA, so it won't work. I mean that if you will add a feature, some kind of video feature to an old school concept, it won't work. If you want to develop your concept to be mobile first, so it won't be mobile first. If you want to be focused on the content creation, so people won't create content. So you can't fake it here. There are places where you can fake it, but not here.
No. So let's pull it up. But I think your point, Tal, is really important, because what you're talking about, I've seen a lot in learning and development, where we try and take something we used to do that might have worked okay over here, and then we just try and copy and paste it in a completely different way. And it doesn't work. To your point of you can't take something that was this way and go, let's just try and dump this in Instagram. No. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about deployment because so we talked about the back end. These creators create this content. The gladiator decides, live or die. Is this thing going to go? And then we're pushing it out and reaching people where they are, regardless of whatever instant messaging platform they're on.
Yeah. So again, as we said, as you just said, it's whatever platform they're on, right? Due to the limitation of this broadcast, I can't share my mobile phone, so I'll show it on a desktop version. But as Tal said, 99% of our users are on mobile, and it's best played on mobile. But I'll try to present. I'll put on my WhatsApp. But again, you can do it in text messaging.
And you're not sharing, so when you pull it up, I'll watch to see when it comes through. But yeah, so while you're doing it on desktop, most people are doing it from mobile from whatever.
Definitely.
Yeah, 99
Teams, WhatsApp. I don't know.
Definitely.
Slack.
So you can share it. We have deep integration with a lot of platforms like Microsoft Teams that you just mentioned, but not only. And again, what we're showing right now is the point of view of the employee, the content creator.
Well, technically, you're not showing anything right now.
All right.
Just as
so I'll start. Yeah, it's a minor detail.
minor detail.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your WhatsApp, which you've already told me for both of you it's where you live in WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So the employee, he or she will receive a byte, instant messaging, instant message to their WhatsApp group or at Microsoft Teams or whatever, as we saw before. And all they need to do is press a link, right? There's one-time login with probably with their mobile number. And once they've logged in, that's it. They're in the byte. Can you see my screen right now?
Yep, I can. So we're watching the pineapple. We're watching the pineapple video.
Yeah. So this is one of our customers who was kind enough to allow us to share it. And he wanted to train all of his employees worldwide how to cut the pineapple in the same way, so it will be displayed in the same way. So he created a byte with this video. But what we see here is a byte that every byte has the same structure. It has the story, the professional story. We talked about it in length.
Okay.
It has the question, the summary, and the discussion. These 4 parts are extremely important, and that's the full learning cycle. You deliver the content, you make sure the employee got it, you summarize, and then you let them let their voice be heard. So in this case,
today we're going to learn how to turn this beautiful pineapple into this.
Hopefully you can hear me at the same time.
Yeah, I can still hear
you. You can see it's very much TikTok-like. It's a 38 seconds video. I will let it play and shut up in a second.
And so as they're doing this is where they're using the video editor that you're talking about, where they shoot the video. That's why you're getting the sparkles and the emojis that are popping up type stuff.
Yeah, I muted the volume so we can talk, but everything you see here was created in our platform. All right, both the sparkling and the editing and the voiceover and everything is done in our platform. It's this is someone who really likes TikTok style videos, but you can. I'll show in a second the different types of media, and then it's followed by a question, just to make sure the employees engage.
Some sort of reinforcement.
Yeah, exactly, reinforcement. And then summarize with the power reminders. What I want the employee to remember from this bite is to wash their hands for at least 20 seconds, to soak the pineapple for 1 to 2 minutes, and to slice the pineapple vertically and horizontally. So that's pretty much.
So there's the bite that says, like, here's the, again, 30-second summary, like this is the whole thing. Then you're saying, hey, here's the key point. I want to make sure you got the question, like you remembered how long are you supposed to soak, because this is the key takeaway. And then there's kind of here's the Reader's Digest version of what you watched, just to make sure you caught the key points.
Yeah, definitely. So what we show is relatively simple example. I like it very much. I think it's very effective. And I think it's something that, we saw the results that everybody got very good.
Everybody's pineapple looked exactly the same after they went through the bite.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see the 4th part of the discussion. Right now it's in our demo environment. So, but you can see that everybody says, love it. It looks so easy, useful tutorial. And you can reply as a manager and open a thread. If someone doesn't understand anything, you can open a thread instantly here, exactly like you would comment on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, and open a discussion.
So this messaging thread, just going back to, because they're starting workflow wise, they're all starting in, like is in your example, they're starting in WhatsApp,
Yeah.
is it then taking them to an app or is it taking them to their browser?
No, all the time. It depends on the platform they're being sent the byte to. But if we have a deep integration with this platform, everything will happen inside the platform itself.
So if there's a deep integration, it's not even bouncing you to anything else.
Yeah,
This is all just
yeah.
happening directly in Teams.
Yeah, exactly. In Microsoft Teams, for instance, like you said, right now we have very deep integration with them. So everything happens within the bytes, within the Teams app. So you don't have to bounce out to the web. With platforms that we have less of integration with, or not such a deep integration, then you're being redirected to the web. But in no point you have to open an app. The employee doesn't have to open an app or to install anything, and that's pretty much it. So essentially, that's a byte. All right, you got a 30 seconds video, a 90 seconds video, a 60 minutes video. You answer one question, you summarize with a power reminder, and you let employees' voice be heard. It's like the first time.
And the social element, again, just kind of unpacking some of this stuff, because this is important. Again, the structure, regardless of how you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about this kind of micro content, because I think this is one of the things that, as you shared with me how you're doing this, sometimes you have folks that they create this content, it just goes out and you're like, well, but did anybody get anything from it? Or is there any sort of connection? Do we have a feedback loop built in to know whether people found value in this? Was there something else? So not only is it the content piece, but that social element is actually creating a lot of this other element, which is an important consideration for any sort of initiative, because this is how you're going to filter out who are your really good content creators and what is the really meaningful content versus you're going to get garbage content created. I mean, it's going to happen. It's not like you're immune from it.
It's true. We're not immune, but that's what we said, that sharing has to be in a certain flow. Not everyone can share, garbage content. I do agree that sometimes people create less engaging content and less effective content. Sometimes it could be too long. One of our customers even, produced a 6 minutes video. There's no technical limit here. We don't recommend it. We recommend it to slice it into a few bytes and create a playlist from it. But you have a lot of analytics around it. We don't have time to show the dashboard and everything, but you have tons of analytics. Who watched the video? How many churned? How many answered the question right? Who commented? And what's the sentiment of the comments? And a lot of
As an admin, you can close the loop, manage your employees, manage the content. And of course, the comments are very helpful for the content creator.
There's one other thing about the comments, which is more than just social listening or social gathering. It's pretty much the only option for managers to hear the voice of their frontline employees who are geographically spread worldwide. And we saw a lot of examples where the frontline employees said, well, that's not the way it works. You really should think about this and this and this. And the manager listened and they created a byte exactly on what they were asking, whether it's the refund regulations or whether it's a new product.
So people are using this as a follow-up. So they may see a comment and they say, hey, this is do you have more details on this? And then the feedback loop goes back to the creator who says, hey, this was great to see as an example, how to cut the pineapple, but somebody might go, I'm actually having a hard time with, I have no idea, the mangoes.
It's
tight. Okay.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. It's exactly like I said, it's a dialogue. It can be, please send me another example about this and that, or I'm sorry, I didn't understand this and that. Can you please, elaborate about? So that's it. And just the last thing I want to say is once the byte is finished, every employee has their own personal knowledge feed. Every byte that I've ever received is being assigned to me, where I can later on see it again, I can reshare it, I can refresh my memory, and definitely search. And whether it's, how to welcome the customer, how to sell a kit, or how to cut a pineapple, or even one of our customers did a yoga teacher training. So that's pretty much.
Got it. So, and I think this is an important piece to consider, because one of the things that's been interesting in the space I'm in and just spending so much time around it is a lot of folks in learning are looking for this the one way to do it. And I'm like, well, there's not, I mean, you got to think diversely about how you're approaching it. But this component of real time, quick, bite size, like, hey, I just need to help people know how to do something, and I need to get the message out there fast. And this goes back to an earlier point, Tal, you made, which is I've seen organizations, and this is, we're going to not have time to unpack this whole thing, but I want to dig into it a little bit, is that some organizations have fought hard to separate training from communications, right? Like they're two different things. No, we're training. We don't deal with that. No, we're comms. And really, sometimes the lines are so blurred that it's like, why are we fighting over this versus just creating a solution and saying, let's just get it out to folks? Exactly.
I think that we don't see the bites as a feature for ongoing updates. It's not that. The bites can actually train people. We train doctors via the bites. For example, we trained epidemiological investigators via the bites. So it is not just for ongoing, very quick updates. It's a concept, and it's the DNA, and you can use it for everything, for deep training, for ongoing, for updates, for everything. And again, you can't fake it. If you use just this kind of content as a feature, so you won't create engagement. You have to go all the way. You have to use the platform with the right DNA. That's the only way to make your employees your followers, and not to struggle and ask for their engagement. This is the DNA.
Yeah. Okay. And what you were talking about, we see it as two sides of the same coin, right? Training and development and, communication, it's two sides of the same coin. You can create the best content in the world, but if you're delivering it in the wrong way, nobody's going to see it. So what's the worth of it?
And I think with that piece, because to your point, Tal, about these bite-sized, again, snackable components, I think sometimes where you see people get a bit defensive or just kind of, well, so what, we make everything this? No, there's a whole ecosystem of learning in terms of, you're going to have formal, more deep learning, but you still need to reinforce it and augment it with some of these other components, because the reality is we all know that sending somebody off to do a deep session isn't it. There's more to it for them to reinforce and be able to actually carry it forward and actually change behavior. And some of these other use cases, I just think of the one you gave early on where, I mean, good grief, COVID hit and government agencies or medical hospital systems were trying to figure out, how do we reach nurses or epidemiologists now to let them know we just learned this about the spread of the virus, and it turns out we thought we used to do this. We need everybody doing this now. We don't have time to spend 6 weeks building a formal upskilling program that needs to be laid out in a formal comms plan. We just need to get something out there now.
Exactly. So within the minute they raised their phone to us, 48 hours later, they send bytes, tons of bytes, like 50 or 60 bytes, 48 hours later, to thousands of distributed workforce, anywhere from how to take a COVID test or how to distribute food to the people who were not allowed to leave their homes. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was a very meaningful, use case. And we didn't charge for it or anything like this, but it was
it's a chance to actually make a difference in that sense. It's very cool.
Exactly like this. Last year, we actually felt that like we're making a difference, and we saw the real value that, again, from the minute they raised their phone, 48 hours, they sent bytes to thousands of people, geographically distributed. It was a meaningful moment for us.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you know what? I have so many more things that I want to ask and dig into, but we're at an hour.
You can invite us again.
We will come.
There you go. You guys can do it again, and we'll figure out when that is. Which, by the way, for anybody who's only listening to this, you have to watch the episode to see their background, because the background is fantastic. By the way, I mean, I know backgrounds don't necessarily make or break your content, But that's a pretty cool background that you've got.
And it's
that you're
real, you
sporting there.
know.
It's
And
real.
it's
It's
real.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's not a virtual one. I know you don't
It's
have the
not
little like
virtual.
fuzzy, foggy stuff
Yeah.
behind you as your
It's a
head
graffiti
moves.
artist, a friend who's the graffiti artist. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you both for making the time, especially as you're going into your weekend. Thanks everybody who was able to watch, and I look forward to continuing the conversation on this, but hopefully for learning comms, like whoever you are, thinking differently about how you're approaching content in your organization and how can we move more at the speed of business instead of the way we've always done it. Lots to unpack here, and I just appreciate your time. Thanks for being here, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the week and a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.